Hey, what's going on, Sarasota? My name is Brad Hannon.
Trey Martel.
Felipe Colon.
And we've got an amazing guest with you today, Jennifer Rominiecki from Selby Botanical Gardens. So we're excited to get into the story. We're excited to get into Selby Gardens and all the cool stuff you guys are doing. But first of all, I just got to say thank you for having a great place for me to bring my children.
Oh.
You know, we love going around that place.
Well, that's wonderful.
Grab some food on the way around and
Yep.
let them run around. We have a blast there. So
Good.
excited to learn all about it.
Yes, lots going on.
So tell us what right now is some of the biggest things Selby Gardens is doing, because you had alluded to it before, and
Yes.
now I'm just really, really curious. I want to jump right into the good
Yes.
stuff.
Well, you may have noticed some construction at our downtown
Just a little
Sarasota
bit, right?
campus. Yes. So we are on the cusp of finishing phase 1 of our master plan. We expect
I love the name too.
Yes.
The master plan.
It is. It's a master plan. Yes. And we expect to be complete by the end of this year, 2023, where we will become the first net positive botanical garden complex in the world, generating more energy than we consume.
That's incredible.
We'll have a new welcome center, a new plant research center, a living energy access facility to house parking, a garden-to-plate restaurant, a new
Wow.
gift shop, a solar array.
All of this done before the end of the year.
Yep.
All right, and we're on pace.
We are.
I love that.
How many
Do
phases
you
are
hear
there?
that, Willis Smith?
yeah, Willis Smith, get on it. We got to get this done 2023.
Yes.
How many phases are there?
So there are 3 phases, and the first phase is really the biggest, most disruptive phase.
And the most popular, from what I'm told.
Yep, very popular, as a matter of fact. So it was challenging to get it through the goalposts, but we're almost there. And basically, with the opening of phase 1, we'll almost double our garden space.
Wow.
The footprint of the gardens themselves.
Cool.
And that will essentially, that alone will be producing more energy than you're consuming.
Well, the buildings,
Okay.
the new buildings that are in the phase 1 plan will produce more
So
energy.
there's solar, there's
Yes.
all
We
kinds
can say
of,
the dirty word. It's parking deck.
yeah, it's green though.
It's parking garage.
It's actually
Right?
a LEAF, the Living Energy Access Facility. It's
Living
not a
en-
parking garage.
okay.
Yeah, come on, man. That's out there and out there. That's a parking garage.
love
That's
that.
a leaf.
So
It's a LEAF.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that? Because I
Yes.
think when people around here, they don't know something. They just hear a very small
I
portion of
know.
the issue, and then they just jump into whichever group they usually support.
Yes.
Without knowing the facts. So
Yep. Oh, I
love facts. Big fan of facts.
Facts. I'm
And we
all
don't fact
in.
check on this
Well, we
podcast.
don't fact check, so you can make your own facts
All
up if
right.
you want to.
Okay, well, there you go. So the LEAF, or Living Energy Access Facility, yes, it houses parking, but it also has a 1-story garden-to-plate restaurant
sounds
adjacent to
exciting.
it. It has a new gift shop. And then the kicker is that on the roof is a 50,000 square foot solar array, and it'll generate nearly 1 megawatt of power, and that's what will make us the first net positive botanical garden complex.
That's incredible.
The restaurant will also be the first restaurant that's net positive.
So, big question is the restaurant going to be open on Fridays?
Well, yes,
Well,
absolutely.
Then Trey and Morgan can do their Friday night bites.
Absolutely.
We have Sarasota SpeaX. We have like a little spin-off type deal that he was actually doing before we did the podcast called Sarasota Bites, right?
Yeah.
And they go Fridays, typically Fridays, but go to a different restaurant around town, and it's really
Okay.
a lot of fun.
Well, we are open. The hours of operation will mirror the garden's hours of operation. So absolutely all day. But on some evenings, depending on events and
Right.
programming, we may also be open.
I have an early bedtime, so we can do an early dinner, no
Perfect.
problem.
Early dinner will work.
No
Trey's got
Early
an
dinner.
excuse now to do an early 4 o'clock,
Wonderful.
matinee.
Yeah.
I love it. Well,
So really, I mean, I think that's impressive because you guys took soming that some people in the community were perceiving as a negative.
Yes.
You were expanding, so we
Why
need
don't you
someplace to put the cars, right?
give the counter argument, Felipe? You seem to
The
know
counter- the
argument.
yeah,
counter-
to
what
the-
was the counter argument
Yeah.
to the? I'm not.
Well,
up
I mean,
on this.
Selby, that's a good idea. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah.
Selby Gardens is kind of on the edge of a residential area, and it's quite a nice residential area. I mean, you've got what is it,
Snobs.
Lincoln. No, it's Harbor Acres is
Harbor
over there.
Acres,
But I
right.
forget what
Yes.
the other one is called. Lincoln Park or
It's
Lincoln Park? No, that's your favorite
it's,
band.
it's Hudson Bayou.
Hudson Bayou.
R.I.P.
Lincoln Circle or something
Yeah.
like that. So anyway, there are some incredibly nice neighborhoods
Yep.
there. In fact, some of the nicest in town. I mean, maybe I'm a little biased.
And on the bay.
You know, it's right over there by downtown. So we've got that, and then you hit 41. So
Yep.
there was some pushback on putting a larger commercial type structure kind of that close to a residential area.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, if you see it now, or if you don't see it now, because it blends in so well.
I love hearing that.
I think it
You're
blends in
right.
great. I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't there, and then all of a sudden it was up.
Yep.
And it didn't really bother me. It sort of fit in with the scenery.
Yes.
'Cause,
And
you know,
that was the challenge. That was the
It
main
was.
challenge, was kind of people against the infrastructure there.
Yeah, and I think, we worked hard to try to deal with the concerns we heard.
Mm-hmm.
And the building will be completely covered in plants. So right now that you
Camouflaged.
it'll be vertical gardens,
Right.
really. So when you come there right now, we just installed large trees, but the whole building will be covered with living vines, and we just started those plantings. So it's going to be amazing, really.
I'm going to predict right now, and you heard it here first, that's going to be an incredible display, and it's going to be a source of pride for that neighborhood.
Yes.
Rather than something, we're going to laugh about the fact that people once complained about that idea. So kudos to you for coming up with it.
Thank you. Well, we had a great team, and it was a persistent team, and we stuck to it. And now we're seeing it come to fruition.
Fantastic.
So tell us a little bit about why the expansion, right? I mean, obviously there might have been a small need there in order to do it, but what was the big vision that, you said, hey, we want to do this because...
Yeah, there were a couple of very key challenges we needed to tackle. The first is we have the world's best scientifically documented collections of orchids and bromeliads, and they had been housed on the ground in the flood zone in aging infrastructure. So it was actually right after Hurricane Irma that really galvanized us into action, that we really needed to mitigate that problem. The second challenge, which is a better challenge, is that we can no longer accommodate the number of visitors who wanted to connect with our mission. And on peak days, we turn away hundreds of cars. Wow. So as the CEO, that's painful to see people who want to come and want to buy tickets and memberships get turned away because they couldn't park there. So that was kind of the
Sell them the ticket and say, if you can find parking, you can come in, but you'd have to find parking first. But here's your ticket.
Felipe's yard.
Exactly. And so it was just really challenging to try to access the gardens, especially during season and the peak times.
Okay.
Third, many people never realized that our land was privately owned. And at any time, the Board of Trustees could have chosen to sell parcels for high-density development. Wow. We never want that to happen. So one of the best outcomes of the planning process is that we've now codified the land as a botanical garden as one parcel to prevent it from being broken up.
Wow.
So, as the city continues to develop and grow, our 15-acre oasis becomes that much more important.
Yeah.
For sure.
More sought after as well, though.
Yep. No, exactly.
That's an interesting point. I think a lot of people probably don't know some of that inside baseball detail. I mean, was it a charitable trust or something?
It actually, so it was all privately owned, and that's the other thing. I think people felt the land was public, and it wasn't. It was private. And
why don't we stop right there? Why don't you give us the history of how it was developed overall?
Sure. So basically, Marie Selby, such an icon for our community, her and her husband Bill, it was her decision upon her death to leave her property to become a botanical garden for all to enjoy. And she bequeathed her original 5 acres plus 2 adjacent acres. And so that's a total of 7.
Okay.
And then over our 50 years, because we're now celebrating our 50th anniversary, the board was able to acquire the adjacent parcels over that time in little dribs and drabs.
And that's probably the higher risk areas as well, huh?
Yeah, and so we, once we also couldn't implement a master plan until we owned all of the contiguous land, and so now we do, and it took 50 years almost to get it all the land and now implement the master site plan.
Wow.
So
this plan's 50 years in the making.
It is. I mean, it really is, and so it's our 50th anniversary year, our golden anniversary, and what better way to celebrate than by opening the infrastructure we need for the next 50 years.
I mean, and beyond that, more than likely, right? It sounds like you guys are there for a long time.
Yep.
Talk to us real quick about that oldest orchid and bromeliad, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah. So we have the best scientifically documented collections of orchids and bromeliads in the world.
In the world.
And so our research team goes out into the wild and collects species and then brings them back in order, to facilitate their study. And the study of them really facilitates conservation worldwide, because if you don't know what the world has, you can't conserve it, and you need to know where the plants occur in their natural habitat. So our team is really known throughout the world for their wild collected species.
Okay.
And over Selby Gardens' 50 years, our team has discovered or described more than 2,000 species for science.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's probably a lot more than most others, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's our claim to fame, really.
Yeah. That's very cool.
Yes, and so our team continues with that work.
So it'd be fair to say Selby Gardens is world renowned for that particular part of the collection.
We really are, and only a few years ago, we actually became a Smithsonian affiliate because of the level of our collections.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, just an idea here. Let's just, because we talked, this whole podcast, right? We want to get the message out on cool things happening, or there's a lot of transplants, right,
Yes.
that move here, and maybe they don't know Selby Gardens. If you grew up here like me and Trey and Felipe's been here a long time, you know Selby Gardens, right? So like somewhere to take the kids, like I mentioned before. But I just moved here from up north, I heard about Selby Gardens. Sell me on why I should go to Selby Gardens. I'm not really even a plant lover, you know what I mean? And maybe not a green thumb type person,
Sure.
and I'm not. But I still had a great time at Selby Gardens. So why would one go?
Well, there's something for everyone at Selby Gardens, and the big thing is we kind of reshifted our operating model to be the living museum. So what does that mean? Well, museums have changing exhibits, programs, and events to garner repeat visitation.
Yeah.
Because we never want to hear someone say, "Oh, I've been to Selby Gardens, it's beautiful," as if you don't have a reason to come back.
Right.
So we now have a rotating schedule of exhibits, programs, and events. It's always changing. Right now, we have our major orchid show on view at the downtown Sarasota campus, with hundreds of orchids in flower and a museum exhibit tied to it. And then coming up in early November at our historic Spanish Point campus, we're opening up a show of Clyde Butcher's photography. He's really renowned for his Florida native nature photography, and we will be printing his works on aluminum and setting them within the campus.
That's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
So,
yeah,
yeah.
I went to see a display by Tiffany.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And I thought that was really cool and
Yep. memorable.
You know, obviously because it has the connection to pop culture now with the jewelry company.
Yes.
What's your favorite artist featured in
Yeah.
your displays ever?
Well, that's
Or
a-
since you've been
I
there?
bet you
Yeah.
that's a tough one, huh?
That is a tough one because, the series you attended, the Tiffany show, so that was the 7th in the series that we do. Every February, we open a different interdisciplinary art and horticulture exhibit, and it runs through June. So they've all been amazing. That Tiffany was amazing. Before that, we did Robert Mapplethorpe and Patti Smith. And Patti Smith became our artist in residence, and she's coming back for her 3rd performance later this month, which is really cool. But the upcoming art exhibit in this February will be Yayoi Kusama, a letter to Georgia O'Keeffe. And it's about these 2 female artists and their connection to nature. But what's interesting is not many people realize that Kusama was inspired by O'Keeffe. She wrote to her, and they had letters back and forth in the 1950s, which really gave her the confidence to leave Japan, move to New York, and become arguably the most, iconic, prolific, and successful living artist to date right now.
Wow.
She's about 94 years
And
old.
she will physically be at?
No, but
Okay.
we will have
art, right.
Yes, we will have her art on view, and it'll be amazing. We have an incredible masterwork.
So
of
the
hers.
answer to Trey's question is the one that hasn't yet happened.
Yes,
right?
Well
Her
said.
favorite
exactly.
one
said.
is the one coming up.
When is it coming?
February.
Yes, exactly, February. So it's just around the corner.
Side note, you guys should have seen my kids in the historic house there. They have the art displays and everything.
Grabbing at it.
I got 4 and 2
My
year old.
mom was doing the same thing.
I got 4
Reaching into the display.
I got 4 and 2 year old running around there. We're like, don't touch anything.
Yeah.
You got the officer standing there. I'm like, this guy will get you if you touch any of these
Yeah.
paintings. Don't do it.
Yeah.
It's fun. But even for the kids, I think they were really 3 and 1.5 when we were there last. And
Yeah.
my youngest just turned 2. My oldest is coming up on 5. But I mean, they love the place. And it's not like a museum that you go that you can't touch anything. I mean, you can't
Yes.
touch the artwork maybe, but like you go run around in the next to the water, you might
Yes.
see some fish, mullet jumping, whatever. Like there's just a lot to do and experience.
Isn't there a butterfly display as well?
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yes.
You got like the treehouse area. It's a
Yeah.
lot of fun stuff for the whole family.
Yes, we want people to immerse and use all the senses. So you're right, a traditional museum setting, you have to stay behind the line, you can't touch anything.
Yeah.
But out in the gardens, we want you to experience them and use your sense of smell and touch and really be immersive. For sure.
So we got Christmas coming up pretty soon. What
Yeah.
are the big plans for Christmas? I'm assuming you guys have some events planned.
We do. We have lots of fun events. Our biggest is Lights and Bloom. So that's our annual holiday light show at the downtown campus. Last year, we were rated by USA Today the 6th best botanical garden holiday light show in the country.
Wow.
So there are more than 2 million lights on display for that show. So it's really amazing and lots of fun, whimsical vignettes. We have Florida reindeer, which are really pink flamingos with reindeer antlers.
Nice.
Yes. We have dragonflies, butterflies, all kinds of things all lit up for the holidays. And it's so much fun.
I might be the only one that didn't know this, but you mentioned Spanish Point. I didn't know
Yes.
that was in partnership or owned by, or how's that work?
Yes, so we, Selby Gardens adopted the historic Spanish Point campus in 2020 during the
Okay.
pandemic. The organization was struggling with generating sustainable revenue, and so we adopted it, and we're really proud to have taken it over
Absolutely.
and to safeguard it for the future, and it's 30 Bayfront acres there. And so literally right now through Halloween, we have a wonderful Halloween
That's fun.
light show up every night, and it's called Lights at Spooky Point.
Okay.
And it's basically an iteration of the holiday Lights and Bloom that's Halloween oriented and
I
down
think
at that
it's the
campus.
same one you had last year, similar to like what you had last year.
Yes,
where
and
you
we
kind of walk through and there's
Yes.
lights, and you got like halfway through there's some, you can get some cocktails and drinks and
Yep.
kids running around.
Yes.
That was a blast.
Oh, good. Well,
So you've been there.
Yeah.
went last,
Apparently.
I went last year.
Yes.
That's great.
I
That was
didn't
last
know it
year.
existed. Actually,
more
I've
my
been there.
speed.
But I also I didn't know it was Selby. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of was real low key under the radar that
Yeah.
that happened in 2020. I don't know that. I mean, did you know that?
I had no
Felipe
idea.
knows
No.
everything.
Yeah.
He
I
didn't
didn't
know
know
that's.
We'll have to do a reel or something that comes out earlier because,
Sure.
for me, like Halloween, every day is like, oh, spooky season, pumpkin patch, hay bale rides. That's more my speed, The
Yeah.
hay bale rides were cool when I was like 10, but now I'm more interested in that.
Yes.
It is
Flamingo
really,
reindeer and cocktails.
That's a flamingo
sounds
reindeer
fantastic.
at Christmas.
yeah.
Get your dates.
Yes.
I have to go to that
I'm
too.
getting mixed up here.
Yeah, pumpkins, ghost orchids, spider orchids, bad orchids all lit up. So more Halloween flair.
There
Yeah.
we go. So
Yeah.
you said a couple things that really struck me, in terms of some of the things that we have that we're doing that are really, truly world class. And I think that's great because often in Sarasota, we bill ourselves as this, we're the cultural coast. And, I feel like people say that, not everybody really believes it. So you guys are actually out there, walking the walk.
Yes.
So hopefully we're going to help you talk the talk a bit more about the amazing things going on there. But is that part of what drew you to Sarasota? Because you have a background where you've worked at similarly world-class institutions. How did you, I want to hear more of your backstory and how you took the job and what made you decide to come to our little corner of the world here.
Sure. Well, yeah, I think that I really chose to relocate and come here because of the potential of this incredible city and region. And I tell everyone I started my career in visual art at the Guggenheim Museum, moved on to performing art at the Metropolitan Opera, and ended up in living art at the New York Botanical Garden. Go. So
just to interrupt for
yes.
people who are not New Yorkers or familiar with these places, that's like
Please educate us.
That's like the who's who of really cool art spots in New York. You can't add the MoMA in, and then you've got like the Grand Slam.
Yeah,
basically.
Well, thank you. It really and each experience taught me so much. And I stayed at the New York Botanical Garden for 15 years and just kept increasing my level of responsibility. And a recruiter approached me about the opportunity to be president and CEO at Selby Gardens. And I'd heard of the gardens because it really has international renown, like we were saying, for orchids in particular. But I'd never been, and not only had I never been, I'd never been to the west coast of Florida before. Yeah. Only the East Coast. Like
Very
all those New Yorkers go to the East Coast.
What's the expression you said the other day?
Oh yeah, my dad says this all the time. He's like, we moved to this coast because there's too many people like me there.
Yeah.
On the East Coast, too many New Yorkers.
But it was 75 leads straight
75 goes up to Chicago, 95 goes up to
There
New York.
You go.
Yeah.
So
now, what were your initial thoughts? Were you reluctant to leave New York City because it was kind of the Mecca?
Well, I think I was at a point where I was ready to be in the top job, and sometimes you have to take opportunities when they arise. And I just saw this as a real chance to make a difference. Like the organizations where I worked, like the New York Botanical Garden or the Met or the Guggenheim, these were beloved places, but they're already built and they're already perfected. And I felt in seeing Selby Gardens that there was really a diamond in the rough and that I could really make an impact and bring some of the things I had learned throughout my career to this organization. And it's just been phenomenal. And, to be, our collections are so unique, but then to be on the water in the city, it's really incomparable. And the same with the historic Spanish Point campus, both of them.
Both right on the...
Both on the water. We even now run boats between the two campuses, which is really fun. Yeah. But I really just saw the potential and felt that it would be the right move. And so my husband and I, we relocated with our two young boys and just, made the leap. I never planned to move to Florida at this.
Oh, come on. Everybody plans to move to Florida, I thought.
Well, now everybody does. I feel like I was right ahead of the curve.
It's good thing, too.
Yeah.
When did you take over operations at Selby?
2015.
Okay.
So it's been 8 years.
Okay. 8 great years, huh? Hey, we're having a blast here getting to know Jennifer Rominiecki and talking more about Selby Gardens, but we're going to get to know our guests a little bit more with rapid fire questions.
I'm Jennifer Rominiecki, and this is Rapid Fire. Orchid. My husband, Rob. Aww. Frosting. Walking over the Brooklyn Bridge.
Walking across the Brooklyn Bridge is one of the best things to do during a visit to New York City.
Yankees. The Beatles, Get Back. Get back, back to where you once belonged. Lightsaber.
It's one of life's most important questions. Do you go over or do you go under?
Over. Stevie Nicks.
And I saw my reflection in the snow snow-covered hill.
The beach.
You have chosen wise.
All right, so you got your start in New York City, and you were running up or involved in a botanical garden up there. Can you talk about the difference in operations in New York City for a botanical garden versus sunny Sarasota?
Yes, we don't have snow here. Well, you know, and being in a northeastern garden, I mean, it's a totally different climate. And basically, what's amazing here is how floriferous it is all year round and how fast things grow. I mean, I remember in my first few weeks on the job, a team member planted this little tree in front of the entrance, and I thought, well, gosh, like, shouldn't you put something larger
Maybe a little
there?
bigger tree.
And he was like, just give me like 2 weeks. And I mean, things grow so incredibly fast.
Tell me about it. Growing up
know?
here, I'm cutting my grass twice a week.
Oh,
you know, my dad's
gosh.
like, get out there and cut the lawn.
Yeah.
That's my experience.
You would think the produce would be cheaper. You know, Publix is really getting us lately. This is ridiculous.
You just need to go to the garden to table restaurant.
There you go.
Yes, there you
It'd be
go.
a whole lot better.
Yeah.
You had mentioned we talked about the orchids and all that. You had mentioned that 2,000 different species and you're planting them here. So imagine you're going all around the country and finding them. Have you ever had any issues growing orchids at Selby Gardens, or is like any species of orchid grow there?
Pretty much any species grows except the montane variety, which are really orchids that grow in the cold weather on mountaintops.
So you might find, maybe not
Yes.
even in New York, huh?
Well, what we'd like, when we get to phase 2 of our master plan, we want to build a new glass house complex for our living collections, and we would like one of those houses to have the climate.
Then you
to
truly
do-
have every.
That's right.
That's very cool.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, because there's got to be. I mean, I can imagine New York with the snow, and here
Yeah.
there's got a lot of the experience you took from there was great, but I'm sure a lot of those same species aren't
Totally.
flourishing.
No, this is a subtropical environment, and so that's really what's so wonderful about this climate is, you know, how beautiful things look all year round and how they grow so fast. It's really great.
So can we get nerdy for a second? What's the
Yeah.
climate zone? It's like, is it 8 or 9? I always forget.
8.
It's 8,
Yeah.
which is like tropical, but not really.
It's
Right?
subtropical.
So that means if you plant the tropical stuff in your yard and we get a cold snap, it dies.
Well, what I always tell people in particular, I mean, most of the time, you know, we don't have freezing weather here,
Yeah,
but
right.
when you're having trouble with your orchid, put it outside because it's probably not happy in front of the air-conditioned blast or
Yeah.
wherever you have it.
Is it
And-
the lack of humidity?
Yes,
Yeah,
and
okay.
like just, you know, an orchid has to be happy. It has to be in the right spot. And so I always tell people that are having trouble getting their orchids to reflower to just put them outside and stop messing with them.
Do you get a
Leave
lot of
them
those
alone.
questions?
All the time.
Did
Yeah.
you go to school for anything like in the plant science, whatever?
Right
that
here
would
in the
be?
notes, art, history, and English.
There you go.
go. Harry
From
reads the
Lafayette
notes.
College.
College, how about it? Go Leopards.
Yes.
So you've had to, I mean, obviously probably started in New York. You've had to learn quite a bit on the
Yes.
plant side.
Yes, I mean, really, my background in art history and English really prepared me for sort of cultural institutions and how they operate and what that takes. And then the plant part I've learned over time, you know, you just being around it, osmosis.
Yeah, but I'm sure there was some time there where you were like, the what?
Yes.
How does this? Like,
Well, I'm always learning,
Yeah.
you know, especially with the move to Florida. That was a big change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys have opera at Selby Gardens as well. You want to expound on that a little bit?
Sure. So we partner with all the different performing arts groups in the community to have performing arts in the gardens. And so we love working with the Sarasota Opera, the Sarasota Ballet, the Sarasota Orchestra, the Perlman Music Program. And so in this idea that we were talking about of the living museum with changing programs, we also have rotating performing arts programs in the gardens.
is that something that you brought in?
Yes, because, you know, this community is such an arts and culture community, and it's a great way to experience performing arts in a garden setting.
Yeah, no
For
doubt.
sure.
I just asked because I mean, just from the little bit I've learned of you, the background, that seems like something you would bring to Selby Gardens. So.
Yeah, I didn't, when I moved here is when I really thought, well, gee, of course we should invite everyone to partner with us. And it's been wonderful.
Plus, I'm sure you'd been to Theater in the Park. Probably
Yeah,
in New
well,
York, too.
exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, so we've done Shakespeare in the Gardens with the Oslo Conservatory, and it's been wonderful. But yes, exactly.
Is there anything big going on beyond the master plan? Let's say we get to, master plan phase 4, we're all done, end of 2023. We can't be done, right? What's next?
Well, I think we're always changing and growing. In particular, the exhibition program is like a blank canvas. Like there's so much we can do with this program with our changing exhibits at both campuses. So that will certainly be an area of focus. And also the historic Spanish Point campus. We don't want to change what's so great about it. Mm-hmm. It's a native old Florida preserve. It does need a few more amenities in order to be able to handle the visitors. So there are some improvements we'd like to see there.
Yeah, just like Simply Food and Drinks, right?
Well, yeah,
I don't
exactly.
think they have that. They did have that for the Halloween thing, which was a surprise. But
so now we do. We have a cafe operation out of the White Cottage there,
and it's good food at Selby Gardens. Like it's not like just a cheap cafe. Like it's good stuff.
It's Michael's on East.
Oh, it is.
Yes.
Okay, makes sense.
Yep,
makes
exactly.
Sense. So you partnered with all the right people when you came in.
Sure.
Huh? Well, Selby Gardens, obviously a landmark. You guys got anything more on the Selby Gardens? Because I want to talk a little bit of Sarasota with her. Because I'm just curious.
Let's move on to Sarasota.
Yeah. I love Sarasota.
I'm just curious. You moved in 2015, I'd imagine, or right? So you haven't been here long. A lot of our guests are from Sarasota, or I've been here a little bit longer. I'm just curious, and you'd also never even been to the west coast of Florida before you moved. So I'm curious, when you moved, what were some of the biggest, positives, and the biggest negatives?
Yeah.
First impression too.
Yeah.
Okay. The quality of life here is incredible. I mean, being from New York, you don't realize how tough a place it is to live unless you leave it behind. And so when you don't know any better, you just put your head down and go.
Right.
But the general quality of life here is incredible. Living by the water, the weather, everything's easier here. And so as far as negatives, the part I crack up when at the level of complaint about like traffic and only because if you've ever been in gridlock in Manhattan on a rainy day,
we got nothing on that.
Exactly. So like there are some days it takes a little longer to get where you want to go, but it's nothing like the log jam that I used to experience.
In New York,
I have this discussion probably 3 times a week. Yeah, and the traffic, when people complain about the traffic, I laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
This is as Felipe slams on his horn at everybody in traffic. He's a road rage driver.
And right before he shows up 20 minutes late. It's like,
complaining about traffic.
you would think you learned to leave early.
And I'm sure you'll agree with this. In New York, when you look up and you see all the life and all the buildings and you're on the FDR or something or some road, you're not supposed to be driving there.
Yeah.
You know you're getting what you deserve. But I mean, so here the traffic is nothing.
Yeah, I agree, and it's something that people do a lot of complaining.
We don't commute
People will
here.
search for things to complain about regardless.
It doesn't matter where
They
you're
don't
at.
realize in New York a 10-mile reverse commute is 45 minutes.
Exactly.
I'm saying again the other way, not with traffic. Right? It's 45 minutes, literally.
Yeah.
A 10-mile reverse.
Yes.
They're going backwards in the.
Not the main traffic, going away from the city.
Gotcha. Oh, it's still
Yes,
traffic.
10 miles is 45 minutes. Whereas here, we go from one end of the town to the other and it takes 25, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's the end of the world.
So when you're not working at Selby Gardens, what do you do for fun around Sarasota? What do you enjoy?
The beach.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a definite dream of mine to live as close to the beach as possible. So that definitely sweetened the pot in moving here, to just be by the water, be by the beach. And, in the summer months, since the pandemic, my family and I have done a staycation on Longboat Key. I mean, it's
Oh, yeah.
great, and it's right here. You know,
We just stayed at the Valley High, Anna Maria. It was great. you know.
Yeah.
Now, do you have a lot of your friends and family that come down here to stay with you?
Yeah. So
Have you introduced a lot of other people to the West Coast now?
So, of course, we have family members that followed us here and moved.
Yes.
So, because, once people experience how great Sarasota is and the West Coast is they realize that it's awesome.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't they just chuck it all and move here too,
The staycation on Longboat is popular. I mean, I've run into people from Miami who staycation there because they're just like, it's crazy over here. I can't.
Yeah.
Well, and what's funny is we talk about the people that complain about it and such. And I think growing up, a common complaint when as a young kid growing up, it's like, oh, there's nothing to do here. It's kind of a lame, sleepy old town, you know. And then, full circle now we're, getting older. We're not old, but we're getting older. and you grow to really love the where you're from. And so I think that's kind of the heart of this podcast. It's kind of one of the biggest reasons we started it. I moved away for 3 years to Orlando, and I moved way far away, all the way to Orlando, thinking like, I'm close enough to home, but I miss this place tremendously. And now people are like, man, I don't know how you can stand to live here. It's busy, everyone, and I'm like, I'll never live anywhere else. I'll never live anywhere else.
Totally.
What are some of the favorite restaurants? We talked about Sarasota Bites. What are some of your favorite spots to go eat?
Oh, that's a good one. So, of course, my business partners, Michael's on East, they do a phenomenal job.
Go.
How can I not give them a shout out?
They catered my wedding, so yeah.
There you go.
Got to give them a shout out.
With the kids, we love geckos and dry dock on Longboat. I mean, we go to both of those a lot as a family, and it's just like really cash and
we were just
great.
at the chili cook-off, and we drove by that one, which we've never been to.
The
and
geckos?
my son's like, "There's another geckos, Dada."
They help you? That's the one we always
There's another
go to.
geckos.
That's the main one, no?
Yeah.
But my son's 4. He doesn't know that.
I met you at Hillview Geckos
Yes,
to discuss
to start
the
this pod,
podcast.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
Geckos. They my kids just love geckos. One, because they got great kid food, but they give you the little geckos. And anytime they can go get a new toy somewhere. And my son even pointed out last time we were going there, he's like, Dada, this is the only place. This is the only restaurant where you can get toys.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and he goes, we walk in. Can I have a gecko? Give him one. Can I have 2 geckos? It's like, sure, have as many. And he grabs a handful. I'm like, no, come on, we can have 2 or 3 geckos. That's enough.
And you can watch football.
Yeah, and you can
There
watch
go.
football.
So
So
it's
it's-
2 boys.
Yeah,
so.
it's great you came from New York and you found the local restaurant chains rather than the,
Yes.
That's fantastic.
who's your favorite football team?
The New York Giants.
She hasn't left that behind.
The answer should have been Lafayette Leopards, right?
Yeah.
Trey?
Oops.
That's our question.
We're doing well this year.
Yeah.
In what, Division 2?
1 AA.
Oh, okay. 1 AA. There you go. Well, we have something that we ask every guest as we're kind of nearing the end here, and Trey likes to tee it up. So, Trey, hit her with the.
Well, I
famous
prepped her
question.
before the show, and
man.
I kind of ruined it because she started talking about traffic already. But what are your thoughts on the roundabouts? How do you feel about them? Do you love them or hate them?
All right. Well, this is a split decision because I like the small roundabouts, but the big ones make me car sick.
You know what? That's not the first time we've gotten that answer, though. Like, the small ones seem to work, pretty efficiently. The large ones, people get lost or stuck in or can't change lanes. Or
Well, and if you're a passenger going on the big ones, I mean, you're really like,
you put it on 2 wheels.
yeah, there's just, something that is a little off-putting about that.
So we're not going to put one in front of Selby, though, right?
No.
Okay, good.
Do you get seasick?
I'm
so
not,
you're prone to that.
I'm prone to motion sickness, so my motion sickness does not allow me to enjoy the big roundabout. Yeah. But
Well-
the small ones I do like. The ones that are, like the
Yeah, they're easy. You just shoot right around them,
it
no big deal.
seems efficient,
You mean the ones on 41?
Yeah.
when you
The
go
big
up-
ones on 41.
Well, those are the right.
She doesn't. She does not like the
Well,
big
no,
ones.
the big one on 41. There's smaller ones on there too.
The small.
Name the intersection where the smaller one exists.
All the ones 10th Street. 10th Street and 41. You're not a North Side guy, Brad.
I would
That's
consider
the thing.
10th Street big, large.
I would say
Okay,
that's
that one's
The
medium.
small ones are like out east on Fruitville. That's
the
when you're
one I'm
cruising. You're just
The ones on, or
Those
the
ones feel good.
The ones on Bee Ridge, east to 75.
I don't go
east,
there, man.
I'm
You're in the
east
east
side
guy.
of town.
I'm a north side.
Yeah, whatever.
whatever.
Well, there's a final question that we always ask every guest, but before we get to that final question, none of us are experts on Marie Selby Botanical Gardens, and so we may have missed some very important things. Is there anything else that, and maybe we didn't, but is there anything that we didn't talk about or cover with Selby Gardens we would be remiss if we didn't give you the microphone for?
I think we just want everyone to realize that we have, with both of our campuses, 2 Bayfront sanctuaries that we really want the community to enjoy. And,
absolutely.
you know, we've taken a lot of steps to ensure that we can provide access to underserved families in our region, because that's important.
Yeah.
It's really important that all of the children of our region have access to nature and to learning, and that's
would that
been
be
something
along
important.
the lines of I saw this the other day, would that be along the lines of if you are collecting I don't know, food stamps, I guess it is, or something like that, you can get in there, the free admission type thing? I read it on a website the other day.
So we have a couple of programs that are really geared toward the underserved in our community. We have the My Garden membership program, which we partner with different youth services groups so that they can distribute the memberships to the families in need so that they can have full-on access just like
Very
everyone else.
I remember going to Selby Gardens through the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
That's my memory of going
Yeah.
to Selby Gardens as a kid.
Yeah, any programs like that you can highlight, because I think I'm glad Brad asked that, because I was gonna kind of hint at that too.
Yeah.
Oftentimes in this climate today,
Sure he was.
outreach has turned into a dirty word, and I don't
Yeah.
like that.
No.
But the reason we need to do that is because if you didn't grow up with this kind of stuff and your parents aren't
Totally.
into it, how would you ever? It could be your life's passion. You'll never know that if you don't get exposed.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I know a lot of the New York places where you worked have similar programs to do
Yes.
that. So,
Yeah.
and it's not even just about underserved, which is important. It's also about, hey, younger families.
Getting
You know,
all
or younger people
diverse-
generally, right?
Yeah, every demographic, you know, every person. There's
So,
something for
besides
everyone.
the new campus, are there other things you're doing to, you know, that people would need to hear about or want to know about?
You know, I think that we have so much going on with programs and events that I just encourage everyone to go to selby.org
There you go.
and, you know, check out our offerings because they're changing every week, but there's always a reason to visit both campuses.
And listen, if you haven't been back since Boys and Girls Club, it would be a great day date for you and Morgan, because
I told you I went.
yeah, but you got
been
to
a few
actually
times.
you just went to the event, and that's, you know, something. But
I
actually
learned a lot
touring
about,
touring the
Tiffany's.
gardens again is cool. I'm not like an artsy guy. Like I mean, I do.
You don't say.
I do own stock in a George condo, right, through some sort of art investing program. But that's
All right, let's
as
get
far as I
back to the
go.
last question. So, do you have anyone that you would suggest we get on this podcast? Someone the audience needs to hear from.
Local to Sarasota.
Yes, I would say Heather Caston, the president and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce.
There you go.
So I'm on the board of the Chamber of Commerce, and she would be an excellent guest for you guys to get
I
to
agree.
know.
Awesome,
Home run.
rock and roll.
Well, thank you
Great.
so much, Jennifer, for coming on. It was great learning more
Thank
about
you.
Selby and yourself.
Wonderful.
Thank
Great meeting you. Thank you.
Terrific.
You heard it here. Get out to Selby Gardens, guys.